Now it's my great pleasure to welcome the Prime Minister of Canada to the stage, Monsieur le Premier Ministre. Thank you, Monsieur.
Hi, good morning. Good morning. Can you still hear me? Fantastic. Thank you. Thank you very much for joining us. I simply cannot think of a better way and a better person to start the GovTech Summit with, the new Prime Minister. You've been described as the nerd-in-chief, I think. And I want to start this session by saying, if you're the nerd-in-chief, we are your nerd army. And we will together, I think, storm the Luddite barricades with the technology at our disposal. So I'm really excited that you've been able to join us.
Thank you for giving me an opening on that, because I think that's exactly the wrong way to think about it. I think the fact that there are a lot of people anxious about the transformation of our worlds, the technological revolutions we're part of, AI, robotics, all the different challenges to our workplace, to our way of life, leave a lot of citizens feeling uncertain about what the future is going to be like. And I think one of the things that we have to do as a society, as tech leaders, but also as government, is reassure people that the innovation, the technology is not just going to make their lives easier in terms of services we're delivering, but is going to empower them in ways that they will feel part of the world we're building and of the workplaces we're creating. So the focus on bringing people along as opposed to challenging them with new ways of doing things, I think is, certainly from a government perspective, much more important than being all excited about the disruptions we're creating.
No, you're totally right. Maybe that's the great cue then to ask, you know, technology has transformed our society, has transformed our economy, and I think in the last couple of years, it's probably done more to our politics and our electoral process and our campaigning than most of us had imagined. So given the fact that technology is having that transformative impact and all the things that you say, the importance of bringing people with us, you know, maybe taking a step back, you know, how do you think the current generation of leaders are dealing with some of those, you know, digital transformations and the challenges they bring?
Well, I think one of the things that I used to, when I ran for the leadership in 2013 and then the general election in 2015, we were using a lot of social media. We were using a lot of you know, fairly innovative at that time technology. But one of the things that all the media and everyone seemed to be asking about was, well, is social media going to replace regular campaigning? Is technology going to displace the other types of politicking? And I kept trying to explain to people that technology and social media and, you know, mobile apps do not displace anything in terms of the real conversations you have to have with citizens about where we're going as a society. They provide another way of communicating, more avenues for reaching out. But one of the things that we realized profoundly is social media is a desire to connect communities, connect with like-minded friends or acquaintances on that you virtual or not, that you know or not know in the real world. So what people are looking for is ways of shaping the public conversations, ways of feeling relevant to the discussions we're having, ways of impacting through connections. And you have to continue to ensure that in politics, you are actually connecting with people physically. So we do a lot of going door to door, a lot of town halls, a lot of in-person events that you can then layer on a level of you know, collecting information or analyzing preferences. But the fundamental element remains the person-to-person contact that is actually improved and enhanced in many ways by the technologies we have.
I can't help but feel when I listen to you speak that somehow you and I and many others represent you know, a particular vision of what technology can do. You know, a very positive, liberalizing vision of what technology can do. You yourself said it's about allowing people to communicate. But social media is doing a lot more than just allowing people to communicate. And in politics, you say that it's not replacing the old style of doing things. But it certainly is, in the case of some of your international colleagues, seemingly replacing diplomacy. Social media is now being used in lots of different ways. So I just wondered, you know, do we represent too open and liberal a perspective given what's happening recently?
No, I think obviously diplomacy has important ways of communicating through social media as well. I mean, being able to put out a tweet of condolence or support, or it's easier than and more direct and resonates more than issuing a press statement that then has to be picked up and carried on wire services. So there is a directness to social media that is extremely useful for all politicians. But I think we have to, and I know exactly where your question's going, in this idea that there are people using the technological forces to undermine and redirect democratic impulses and foster the kind of polarization and controversy that is so common now in some corners of our political discourse. I think we have to remember that this is a new sort of era of communications. There's a lot of learning going on. We have to learn how to make sure that we are actually enhancing our democracies instead of undermining them. And I think part of that is about understanding that we need to be empowering citizens. We need to give people faith in political discourse, in democracy, in the world that we're building. And that's hard to do. And how we actually use the same kinds of tools in positive ways to connect people, to counter the negative narratives out there, and to leave people feeling connected in a positive way, is where I find people respond to the level you react them with. If people are trying to get negative emotions out there, or make you angry, or make you divided, or make you hate your neighbor, we have to do a better job of giving people a positive alternative. Because most people, if they're given an equally compelling positive alternative, will rise to meet that positive alternative. But if it ends up in a screaming match between one side versus the other side, whoever's better at nasty is going to win. If we actually think about it, it's easier to push someone into being angry. It's harder to pull them into being positive and earnest and involved. But the way you pull them, the way you draw them into building a better society, is by creating that connection and that confidence. And that's something you can use social media for and technology for just as easily as you can use it for negative things.
I feel that I have to ask, because I think it'll be on the lips of a lot of people when they hear you lay out this very positive and compelling vision. Do you sometimes wish that President Trump tweeted a little bit less?
I think it's important that people are authentic, and he's certainly authentic. We need to make sure that people know who we are and why they should vote for us. Et c'est exactement ce qu'on va faire. Bon, j'ai entendu du français, je vais parler en français un peu là maintenant.
Peut-être c'est un bon moment de parler de votre vision numérique au Canada. Alors, est-ce que peut-être...
Oui, écoutez, une des choses que je suis en train de défendre et que beaucoup de progressistes dans le monde défendent, c'est cette idée que, contrairement à ce que veulent dire certains plus à la droite, le gouvernement devrait être bon à livrer des services, devrait être utile dans la vie de notre société. Il y a des gens qui disent non, le gouvernement est mauvais, il devrait faire le moins possible, mais moi je trouve qu'il y a des choses que le gouvernement devrait bien faire. Et la numérisation permet justement à livrer des services en ligne, de communiquer avec les citoyens, de démontrer une capacité de prévoir, de planifier pour mieux répondre aux besoins, pour permettre au gouvernement d'être meilleur dans ce qu'ils font. Alors, d'utiliser, de faire ce virage numérique dans notre gouvernement. Le Canada, il y a 20 ans, était le meilleur dans le monde au niveau de présence en ligne d'un gouvernement. C'était très statique il y a 20 ans, mais maintenant, on est en train d'essayer de développer une capacité de gouvernement ouvert, de gouvernement branché, de gouvernement mobile, qui n'est pas facile, mais on a des gens extraordinaires. Tu parles de mes capacités. Moi, je suis intéressé par tout ça, mais je suis entouré d'experts et de gens comme notre ministre de gouvernement digital numérique, Scott Bryson, qui est en train de regarder toutes les différentes façons qu'on peut non seulement améliorer nos services, mais améliorer la confiance que les citoyens ont envers et leur gouvernement et le monde numérique. Parce qu'en termes de protection de la vie privée, en termes de sécurité, de cybersécurité, il y a bien des préoccupations et un des rôles du gouvernement, c'est aussi de rassurer, de donner confiance aux citoyens et aux entreprises qui sont en sécurité.
Et est-ce qu'il y a quelque chose que vous avez pensé vraiment, ça c'est une innovation où on peut changer le vie de tous mes citoyens, exactement ça. Est-ce qu'il y a quelque chose comme ça?
Il y a énormément de choses, mais moi, ce principe de gouvernement ouvert, de partager plus les données du gouvernement avec les citoyens pour qu'ils puissent eux-mêmes voir cette transparence, mais cette capacité d'analyser différemment, de voir ce qu'on est en train de faire au niveau du gouvernement, je pense que c'est très puissant. Il y a beaucoup de gens qui poussent encore un modèle très autoritaire ou paternaliste quasiment du gouvernement, de dire voici ce que nous faisons, c'est bon pour vous, faites-nous confiance, puis si vous n'aimez pas, ben on va se reparler dans 4 ans quand on se fera réélire ou non. Mais au contraire, une vraie démocratie ces jours-ci exige d'avoir des citoyens engagés et plus autonomes, qui sont plus présents dans la prise de décision et dans leur création de leur communauté. Alors, pour moi, de partager avec beaucoup plus de transparence ce que le gouvernement est en train de faire, c'est pas seulement en termes de rassurer les citoyens, mais c'est de les impliquer dans la façon qu'on prend des décisions et surtout qu'on livre les services et les opportunités pour les citoyens et les entreprises.
One of the things that you have spoken very compellingly about is the application of artificial intelligence. Canada has set off a great lead on this. You have many great startups that are working in this space. And I know you've had some conversations here, including with the French government, about how to begin managing some of the potentially negative consequences of the application of artificial intelligence, not just to the public sector, of course, but more broadly. I wonder if you could share some thoughts on that.
Well, first of all, you're right to point out that Canada has a significant head start in terms of AI. We, through the most recent AI winter, had a number of extraordinary people, from Yoshua Benjo to Jeffrey Hinton to others, who really developed what is the current, advances in AI that everyone's so excited about. And our capacity now to continue to support and invest in AI is obviously important for us as a government. I think one of the things, as people see AI coming, there's, like I said, a certain amount of anxiety. I think you have two choices as a society or as a government when faced with the kind of technological transformations and knowledge economy you're looking at. Either you decide, okay, you know what, the status quo is working for everyone, let's put on the brakes and try and delay the transformation to stretch out everything we can in this current model, which is good for so many of us. Or we can dive into the future, accept that there's going to be transformations, but that if we go faster and harder and deeper than others, we can come out quicker and maybe lead the kinds of technological solutions that the world is going to be needing. And obviously Canada's made its choice to dive into the future with confidence and optimism, to try and minimize the disruption around the transition, which means investing in education, in STEM, in coding, in K-12, all sorts of different things. But the other piece, as we see AI developing and as countries around the world are looking at trying to use it in different ways, there is a need to set up a framework within AI for good, or AI that is ethical or responsible, and trying to think about the rules that we want to apply to the fundamentals of the algorithms we'll be developing. There's a really important conversation to be had. And I think Canada, with our Charter of Rights and Freedoms, with our approach to diversity, to a broad range of things, is well positioned to partner with countries like France, with other countries around the world, to really lead this reflection on how do we make sure these new technologies are going to be more beneficial to humanity than they will be detrimental.
I think that's an incredibly important vision, and something that we really need governments like the Canadian to lead on. I just want to push you a bit, because I am a bit worried that we're in this race, and that a lot of the people who are in the race with us do not want to comply with these kind of rules. They think it's fine, you guys go ahead and you develop that wonderful ethical framework of yours, and in the meantime, we're going to get there first, and once we do, the game is over. How do we deal with that real challenge?
I think that's a version of the challenges we faced as civilizations for an awfully long time. As people develop technology, some people will use it to, in more positive ways than others. And I think we eventually have to, be obviously mindful of it. But I have tremendous faith in human beings' desire to have more freedoms, not less, have better quality of life, to see their neighbors doing well, not worse, and this sense of the success of liberal democracies as a way of protecting freedoms and creating a rules-based system and working in partnerships as opposed to conflict, is not naive. It's, I think, the trend line that we're seeing, even though there are lots of concerns about, authoritarianism or backsliding democracies or other issues that I think are limited in time. When you talk to citizens around the world, when you look at the advances in education and opportunity and entrepreneurship happening around the world, including the incredibly exciting things happening in Africa, where there are extraordinary young entrepreneurs rethinking their entire futures, that is such a place to watch and to try and be part of. I'm very confident in the overall direction we're going. Yes, there are people, we know, for example, to be very tangible, AI requires two things to be successful right now. You require the right algorithms, the great thinkers to sort of create the programs, but you also require really strong data sets. And in countries where there are less privacy rules, less regulations around controlling citizens' data, there are massive data sets. One thinks of health information in China, for example. There are massive data sets that the AI researchers get to play with. We, quite rightly, have much stronger controls on privacy, much more protections from government and business for citizens. And there is a bit of a disadvantage that comes with saying, we believe that it's important to protect our citizens. But I truly believe that over, not even the long term, the medium term, having a better framework in place will allow us to actually create greater benefits for our citizens and better quality of life and better outcomes to the AI algorithms that we create. The singularity we create will be far friendlier than the singularity they create.
I couldn't agree more.
That's a nerd joke for half of you in here.
That's the nerd joke. You mentioned privacy, which is such an important part, and something where I think Canada has really led for many years. But at the same time, we're not just facing a difference between how, if you will, Canadians or the West thinks about privacy, and then somehow what the authoritarian countries think about it. We're also facing quite a lot of schisms within, the Western conversation between the emerging, trade deal that you'll be doing with Canada, with Mexico and America, and what that will represent in terms of a position on privacy, and what the burgeoning European position. And I know inside Canada, there are also some very challenging conflicts between the federal level and the provincial level. So I just wanted to see if we could pick up on that question. You know, how do we protect privacy in the way that consumers want and demand, and frankly, rightly, we need to safeguard, but at the same time create a kind of global trading opportunity?
Well, I mean, but you can apply that question to just about any issue in society. As we engage more in a globalized world, as we have succeeded in signing trade deals, there's all sorts of a need to align regulations and expectations in terms of what we do as a government and how we do things. I don't think that the digital sphere is any different. I don't think Canadians want any less to have their privacy protected than Europeans. I think the ways we go about doing it, we can learn from each other and draw on each other. The fundamental importance of protecting privacy and creating, you know, secure systems for people is shared. I think what is the most important thing that is often overlooked is the need to educate and empower citizens to be able to be thoughtful. If you just sit back and expect the world to protect you, whether you're on an online world or not, if you say, I can behave any way I want as I cross the street and traffic laws will protect me, you're going to get hit by a bus, regardless of whether or not the traffic laws will protect you or not, or the bus driver is well trained or not. These challenges are real in a virtual world as they are in a real world. So the more we can empower citizens to understand, the more we can actually allay some of the very real fears and anxieties that people have about how we're protecting their privacy, how we're protecting their security, how we involve them in those conversations and those solutions, needs to be at the heart of how we develop the right solutions for, different communities. So for me, it really does start with having honest, real, direct conversations with citizens about what we need to do, about how we're doing it, and not give in to the kind of fear-mongering and polarization that is all too common and all too easy in too many of politics.
Thank you. I wonder if we can just switch track here towards the final stretch. Talk a bit about diversity. It's well known that the tech sector has a problem in a number of ways, not least with representation of women. I'm very proud to say that what you're looking at is the only panel at this conference, the only panel where only men are represented, but it does illustrate that there is a real challenge, something that I think you've been very forceful about. And I just wanted to see if you've had any thoughts about how we can change that situation.
Well, if you want to solve a really difficult new problem, don't put a group of guys who all went to the same school, all came from the same socioeconomic background, are all white, all play soccer together or whatever it is, and expect them to come up with something particularly creative. They will all have the same experiences and the same training. I mean, that's an exaggerated example, but obviously if you're bringing in people with vastly different experiences, first of all, more gender balance, but secondly, people with different backgrounds, different socioeconomic upbringings, but different educational stories, different life experiences, different religions, different languages, different communities, different perspectives, you are much more likely to get a more creative answer as different experiences come up against each other and have to be sort of negotiated through and learned from and experienced. The more you value diversity, the more you create resilient systems, the more you create systems that are more creative and better able to tackle a broad range of previously intractable problems. That's one of the things that Canadians have been very, very lucky with, that we're a country that has been formed with people flowing to our country from everywhere around the world with this desire to build a better future for themselves and their kids. And that's why we've come up with a fairly good, resilient, open society with lots of solutions. Societies that are clinging to a monoculture or mono-identity have a lot more time adapting to the transformations that the world is throwing at us. But that's the same for any organization or any sector. The more we highlight the need for celebrating different perspectives and challenging ourselves with those, the better we'll be in terms of really getting not just better solutions in the abstract, but solutions that land properly in extraordinarily varied communities and people. Understanding how you think about the problem, but also how you deliver the solutions in very different ways given the diversity of the markets and the world we're working on. It's a no-brainer to make sure that you're fully representing our full diversity.
Well, Prime Minister, it's been really exciting to talk to you. Your government recently announced a 100 million Canadian dollar program in order to help startups sell into the public sector. So other governments here, please, pay attention. It's been fantastic to speak to you because what GovTech and what the summit here is about that incredible positive, liberal and open perspective, a belief that technology can be very supportive of the sort of liberal and better societies that we all hope for. So please, everybody, join me in thanking the Prime Minister for joining us today. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.